The NPA has been in court today fighting to restrain the assets of the controversial Gupta family and their associate Iqbal Sharma. The interim restraint order was granted last year and applies to assets in South Africa and properties held by their companies. Now, senior reporter Aviwe Mtila in court early in Bloemfontein, joining us now for an update. Good afternoon, Aviwe. What happened in court today?
But then it looks like the Gupta-owned island site investment is at war with each other. Well, today was supposed to be a confirmation of that freezing order that we saw last year in June, confirming it from its temporary status to make it official. But of course, what we saw in court today was the owners, the directors of island site investment, wanting clarity as to when, basically who is supposed to represent the company legally. They say that they're applying now to the Supreme Court of Appeals to get better clarity after failing to get that clarity at the High Court. In fact, just for better understanding, I am joined by the NPA's investigating directorates, Sinsiwa Seboka. Thank you for joining us at eNCA, but maybe more clarity as the postponement application today.
So today, as the investigating directorate, we wanted to get on with the business as to why we're exactly here, which is the confirmation hearing of the restraint order that we got last year, unlimited restraint order, if you will. But I think what was quite concerning about what took place today, however, everybody does have a right to state their case, is that the directors of Island Site as well as the business rescue practitioners were basically somewhat at war in terms of the locus standi or who should be representing the company. The business rescue practitioners were citing that they are the ones that should be representing, however, and you know that the previous judgment has never decided against them. They have maintained that they need to represent the company. Island Site has joined, saying that they, as the directors, should be the ones representing their company in the fight against the confirmation of the restraint order. When that was still taking place towards the end, Iqbal Sharma's lawyer actually decided to also enter the fray and cited that if the court then extends this rule, meaning the interim restraint order, then it would be quite unfortunate if it's heard on a piecemeal basis, because that was another option, that it's postponed for the other group and then continues for Iqbal Sharma and his various companies. However, the request now towards the end was that if it's postponed and the rule needs to be extended, meaning the provisions, the interim restraint order extended, it should rather, as a suggestion made, be extended for all, and then we come back another time. So the request by the directors is essentially that they want to appeal their standing in order to, in a separate court, in order to then come back and fight us in the confirmation. The judge has decided to stand down the matter. We are going to be back in court tomorrow at 9 a.m. where the court will make a determination on whether the extension of the rule NISI does apply or whether we proceed.
If then the application is granted and this postponement is granted, what does that mean then for this particular case and the restraining orders?
So there are a number of judgments that the judge could actually look into. I don't want to get into the details, but in a summary, if the judge then decides to extend the rule NISI and postpones the part of the directors for them to be able to appeal their locus standi or right to be, in this case, to fight us, he can also then decide to say, let's continue with the Iqbal Sharma matter because they are prepared, we can proceed with that matter and then decide later on whether to confirm or release the restraint. Alternatively, he can come back tomorrow, the Honorable Judge can come back tomorrow and say, let's extend the rule NISI, meaning let's extend the interim restraint order and then come back at a later time when the directors have appealed their presumed right to be able to represent the company. So it's a variety of things, but I think what I must emphasize at the heart of the back and forth is that the NPA is committed. We want to make sure that as much money is recouped that we believe was stolen from the state, more particularly in the Free State in this matter. We have been on a roll. The regiments matter has, we've been able to appeal apply for Regiment's 1 billion rand. We've been able to keep or confirm that restraint. We have been able to preserve optimum coal mine of over 3 billion. So this unlimited restraint would have assisted us to add on to the winning streak that we have in terms of recouping as much as we possibly can from the state coffers that we believe was stolen.
Okay, thank you very much. Sensiwe Seboka from the Investigating Directorate. Now, Bradan, I wanted to take you inside court earlier on where Mike Helens, advocate, senior counsel, basically representing Island Site Investments owned by the Gupta brothers, Atul and Rajesh Gupta, as well as their wives. You'd remember that that particular company was put under business rescue back in 2015, and now the bone of contention, as you heard there from Sensiwe Seboka, is over who gets to represent the company when it comes to the legal matters now. The Island Site Investment wants the directors, in fact, to be representing themselves, while, of course, there are the business practitioners currently ongoing. So the argument here was the implication that it might have if this particular application goes ahead while this specific appeal hasn't been heard by the Supreme Court of Appeals. I want to take that earlier session inside here with Advocate Mike Helens. Let's take a listen to that.
What's going to happen if this matter proceeds without this postponement is that I will not be able to argue. The NDPP will tell you that although you may have read the affidavit of Veronica Ragavan, it's not before you because a party with no authority through its attorney filed the affidavit, so you can't read it. So you will decide the matter with, I don't say the BLP's objection is limping in its own form. Let's call it one strong leg of the opposition, which is the perspective of the BLPs. But the other leg, the facts, as to are you conceivably right? This is what happened, and I won't get into the merits. You'll be called upon to ignore it. So you will have to ignore Veronica Ragavan's affidavit. You will not apparently hear argument on behalf of the company from me. So the one leg of the fundamental opposition will not be before you.
Yeah. And Aviwe, what's the NPA's ID been saying about this postponement application? I mean, you were speaking just now to one of the officials, but what was being said earlier?
Well, Advocate Budlender, senior counsel representing the Investigating Directorate, seemed to suggest that the Island Site Investment is being disingenuous. He said that this could drag on, given that they have ample options on taking it further if they fail at the Supreme Court of Appeal. They already failed at the High Court. Now they're taking it to the Supreme Court of Appeals, and there's suggestions that they could even take it further to the Constitutional Court, which could see that matter heard only next year. They say that they've got multiple options that they could have pursued instead of then asking for this particular postponement and having to delay this confirmation order of the asset themselves. Let's take a listen earlier on to Advocate Budlender and what he had to say just around the delay tactics.
Your Lordship will have seen on the papers that there have been attempts by the NDPP to obtain mutual legal assistance from other jurisdictions. If all we have is a provisional restraint order, our prospects of getting that assistance are very limited. Once we have a final restraint order, the prospects become very different, and one of the things, of course, we're most interested in is Mr. Sharma's 5 bank accounts in different parts of the world. Our prospects of getting mutual legal assistance and getting that information, which is necessary for a variety of purposes, including the criminal trial, are much greater if we have a final order, a final restraint order against Mr. Sharma and his entities.
Thank you very much to Aviwe Mtila in Bloemfontein this hour.